Hey guys and gals, it's your buddy Drew with Living History's Mysteries and Three-Eyed Raven Productions. You know, so often when we look back at history, certain people who even don't know a lot about history always come up with those certain really famous individuals that stood out above and beyond the rest. Today we're going to take a look at one of those individuals. It's somebody near and dear to me. When I was at the event, the Living History event in Kalamazoo, Michigan, just a couple days ago, I had multiple individuals come up and take pictures of me because they thought I was dressed up like Bill Cody. I was just dressed up as me filming the event. But it got me thinking. And I was talking to a couple of the other cowboys that were walking around that place. One guy from Oklahoma, another guy from Texas. And they both told me, man, you look so much like Cody. You should think about doing him on the reenacting circuit. And you know, last year I was going to do it, and things happened, and it didn't get to happen. But it's got me thinking that maybe, just maybe, it's worth a try. But I sat down when I got home and I edited the video for the Living History Trade Show, and I started thinking, you know, I haven't done a video on Bill Cody since the old channel. So I wanted to sit down today. I wanted to compile as much old original footage of Cody and Buffalo Bill's Wild West and the Congress of Rough Riders of the World, and tell a little bit about Bill's life, where he came from, how he got his start, and ultimately what happened to him. Stay tuned. American soldier, Pony Express rider, civilian military scout, bison hunter for the railroad, showman. Who was the legend? Who was William Frederick Buffalo Bill Cody? Today we're going to take a look at just that, his life, his history, and the end.
And Russell, they had put together this thing called the Pony Express. And I went in there and I saw a gentleman that I had known back in Leavenworth who had worked for the company, and he said, well, okay, I'll give you a job with the Pony Express. I know you're an honest young man. I know you're a hard worker. We'll see how it goes. And we'll give you a 45-mile stretch. You'll ride that every day in 15-mile increments. You'll ride 15 miles, gallop to a way station. You'll get off, get on another horse, and keep the pouch with you, and then do another leg, change horses, do another leg, and then you'll be done for the day, and you'll sleep there that night, and then coming back, it's the same thing the next day. Well, it was pretty interesting. The pouch was waterproof leather, and it was sealed in St. Joseph, Missouri. And it didn't have its seal broken until it got to Sacramento, California. And then the mail was parceled out there. The mail, now you probably think you have some pretty high mail rates today. 2 ounces for a letter, $5. I One letter paid my wages for one day. I was making about $125 a month or so, 120, 125. And that was considered darn good money in those days, darn good money. And it was the same thing, back and forth. There was a time when I had gotten to the way station and it had been attacked by Indians. My relief rider had been killed. And so I went on, I set a record of 300 and some miles before I had an opportunity to rest, over 24 hours. But for the most part, riding for the Pony Express was very boring. I was seeing the same terrain every day.
Bill Cody was born on February 26, 1846, in LeClaire, Iowa, right on the Mississippi River. He spent several years in his father's hometown of Mississauga, Ontario, and then moved with his family back to the Midwest and settled in the Kansas Territory. Bill started working at age 11 after his father's death and became a rider for the Pony Express at the age of 15. During the American Civil War, he served the Union from 1863 till the end of the war in 1865. Later, he served as a civilian scout for the U.S. Army during the Indian Wars, receiving the Medal of Honor in 1872. At the age of 14 in 1860, Cody was caught up in gold fever, with news of gold at Fort Colville and the Holcomb Valley Gold Rush in California. On his way to the goldfields, however, he met with an agent for the Pony Express. He signed with him, and after building several stations and corrals, Cody was given a job as a rider. He worked at this until he was called home to his sick mother's bedside. Cody claimed to have had many jobs in his life, including a trapper, bullwhacker, 59er in the Colorado Pony Express rider in 1860, wagon master, stagecoach driver, hotel manager, but historians have had a lot of difficulty documenting all these different positions Cody suggests to.
My Wild Wild West. It was never a show. It was an educational experience. And I greatly enjoyed announcing to my audiences. Today, I'm happy to be back in the Leavenworth area from Denver, where I'm currently residing. I sense this is probably one of my last times back. I'm not getting any younger. But I've had a lot of questions about what it was like to live in this area when I was just a young boy. So without any further ado, I thought I would share with you a little bit of my background. Because, I didn't come from here, I came from Iowa, on the Mississippi River, LeClaire, Scott County, not very far from Davenport. In fact, my father Isaac and my mother Mary Ann ran a stage line from Davenport to Chicago and back. And my father was also extremely active in politics as a Whig and an abolitionist. He even had some hopes of leading a group of homesteaders out to the west. Even actually got started, and within a day it fell apart, and he had to come back, and he was greatly chagrined over that. But I think the incident that caused us as a family to leave Iowa was based upon my older brother, Sam. Sam, I looked up to so much. He was about 7 years older than me. He was also a fine horseman. And we were supposed to, listen to the chimes. We were supposed to go tell Father something, had a message, and so we both rode our horses to his office, but on the way, my brother, who was on a mare that our mother had told us he should never ride because she was just too mean, saw that we were passing the school just as the kids were coming out, and he decided to show off his horsemanship. And when he took off, the mare reared up and fell back on him, crushing him. They took him to a neighbor's home. I went on to my father's office to tell him what had happened, and he came back. The word got to our family, and by the next morning, Sam had passed on. And this really, really hurt my father. And he decided maybe it was time to get a new beginning. So they decided to move as a family to Kansas. But fortunately, they had a secure base of operations to move to initially. We came by wagon and carriage across Iowa and Missouri to Weston. My father's brother, Elijah, was the most successful businessman in Weston, had several farms, had several businesses in town, and we decided that the family would stay on one of his farms just outside the city, while my father went over into Kansas to determine what opportunities there might be. So he did so, had the opportunity to talk with the Indian agent of the Kickapoo Nation, which is just a little north of Fort Leavenworth. And in talking with him, it was decided that he would build a trading post for the Indians. And that would be our family's new career. So he came back to tell us this, and then went back to start readying a place. And got some goods, started trading, even though he didn't have everything built yet. But one day he comes back to Weston to tell me that he had bought me not one, two ponies. Now I was about 8 years old. This was 1853. And I had longed to have my own horse or pony for some time. I'd always ridden families' horses, but I never had one of my own to take care of. And now I was going to have two. I was really excited. My father took me with him. We crossed the river. We came to Fort Leavenworth just in time to see a full military parade. It was wonderful. Oh, the bugles and the drums and the soldiers in their uniforms standing just so straight and proud. And when they moved all together. Never seen anything quite like that.
Cody received the nickname Buffalo Bill while under contract with the Kansas Pacific Railroad. His job was to supply bison meat to the workers. According to reports, Cody killed 4,282 buffalo in 18 months in 1867 and 1868. Cody and another hunter, Bill Comstock, competed in an 8-hour buffalo shooting match over the exclusive rights to use the name Buffalo Bill, which Cody won by killing 68 animals to Comstock's 48. Comstock, part Cheyenne and noted hunter, scout, and interpreter, used a fast-shooting Henry-repeating rifle, while Cody competed with a large-caliber Springfield Model 1866 trapdoor, which he called Lucretia Borgia, after the notorious Italian nobleman, the subject of a popular contemporary Gaetano Donizetti opera, Lucretia Borgia, based on Victor Hugo's play of the same name. Cody later explained that his shooting opponent would shoot from the rear of the herd and leave a trail up to 3 miles long, while Cody would shoot the leaders of the herd, ultimately causing the herd to circle, making his shots easy targets.
Bull that has had a special operation as a calf to gentle it down a little bit, if you know what I mean. And oftentimes folks will eat what they call a steer, usually from about 18 months onward, but a full-grown steer is called an ox, and it takes about 4 years to get to that point. In fact, oxen that are going to be working in teams start out as young calves, and they're always hooked together in the same place. The one on the left is always on the left, the one on the right is always on the right, and they have a yoke that goes over both their necks, and there's a ring that hangs down from the middle of the yoke where the pulling chain for whatever they're pulling, whether it be a wagon or a plow, is hooked to with a hook. They go through 5 sets of yokes before those oxen are fully mature. And they only learn 5 commands. Get up. G. Haw. Back. And the most important one, whoa. I mention this because the oxen are considered to be a far better draft animal for the needs of the Army in the Western Plains, and they played an important part in my life. My father got a contract with Fort Leavenworth to supply hay, and so the first year that we were there, 13 weeks after we arrived, we brought a load of hay to Fort Leavenworth. Sold it. We were coming back in our wagon, and there was a roadhouse about 2 miles before our place. It was owned by some Missourians. These were rough people. They had their pantaloons stuffed in their boots. Every one of them carried a knife or a pistol, and they were all pro-slavery. My father did not agree with their philosophies. And as we were going by, they stopped us, and they wanted to know what his philosophy was. And he demurred and didn't say much, but they forced the issue. Now, my father was one of the bravest men I ever knew. He got down off that wagon, got up on his stump, and he proclaimed not only was he against slavery, he was even against having any black people in the state of Kansas. And that was his position. This did not please the crowd of about 100 men and women. Not only did they boo, they were saying things like, kill him. A young man who worked for my uncle over in Weston happened to be part of the crowd, and he was very pro-slavery. And he snuck up behind my father on the stump, got up there on that stump behind him, pulled out a big bowie knife, and stabbed him twice in the back. My father collapsed onto the ground. I ran to get him, and cooler heads prevailed, or that young man would have killed him right there and finished the job. And they pulled him off. Later on, he became quite a rambunctious person in the border wars between the North and the South over the Free State of Kansas. I got my father to the wagon, got him back home, decided to take him to Weston, where he was doctored up.
In 1883, North Platte, Nebraska, was looking for some kind of a special function to celebrate a city festival. And Bill suggested a rodeo/circus type event to draw in the crowd, and Buffalo Bill's Wild West was born. In 1893, Cody changed the title to Buffalo Bill's Wild West and Congress of Rough Riders of the World. The show began with a parade on horseback with participants from horse culture groups that included the U.S. and other military, cowboys, American Indians, and performers from all over the world in their best attire. Turks, Gauchos, Arabs, Mongols, and Georgians displayed their distinctive horses and colorful costumes. Visitors would see main events, feats of skill, staged races, and sideshows. Many historical Western figures participated in the show. For example, Sitting Bull appeared with a band of 20 of his warriors. Other headline performers to have been known to go with the show were Annie Oakley and her husband Frank Butler, Gabriel Dumont, Lillian Smith, and even Calamity Jane appeared as a storyteller as of 1893. In just 4 years of touring with his profits, Cody purchased a 4,000-acre ranch near North Platte, Nebraska in 1886. The Scouts Rest Ranch included an 18-room mansion and a large barn for winter storage of the show's livestock. In 1887, invited by British businessman John Robertson Whitley, Cody took the show to Great Britain in celebration of the Queen's Jubilee year for Queen Victoria, who attended a performance. It played in London and then in Birmingham and Salford near Manchester, where it stayed for 5 months.
My mother went with me and talked Mr. Russell into giving me a job, first as a messenger. And that was kind of a boring job for me. I didn't like it. I had to just sit around too much waiting for a message before I had to take off and deliver it up to the fort or wherever I had to go and then get back. I finally talked him into letting me be a herd boy, take care of the oxen that were there between trips. And that was pretty good. In fact, I even found time to go to school for a little while. Never had much school. Really about a couple of years is all. But there was a young man who also was a herdsman. He was a little bit older than me. He was bigger than me. And I happened to like a young lady there in that school. And I built her a little house by the schoolyard that she could rest in. Pretty little thing. Both she and the house. And he snuck around and he upended that house and destroyed it. Well, I fought him and I lost. A couple days later, I built her another house, playhouse. He upended that one too. We got into the fight and I was getting the worst of it. In fact, he had me down and he was beating on me. And I had, it wasn't a folding pocket knife, it was just a short little dagger in a sheath that I kept in my pocket. And in fighting, that had fallen out, and my hand happened to touch it. And I pulled it out of the sheath, and I stabbed him in the thigh. And he let out a cry and says, "I'm dead." Billy Cody had stabbed me to death. And of course, he got off of me, and he's crying and everything, and everybody's coming and running. Well, I knew it was time for discretion to be the better part of valor. I ran, and I happened to see a wagon train, and I happened to see that the wagon train was led by an old friend of mine. And I came up to him, and I explained what happened. He says, "Well, Billy, you did right. You had to do what you had to do. I'll take care of you. You can be my herder's boy on my wagon train. We're going to Fort Kearney." Now, some of you probably know where Kearney is. It's out in Nebraska, way out in Nebraska. And we were going to be gone about 40 days to get out there and back. And as we started out, he stopped by my house. I explained to Mom what had happened. And she said, "Okay, we better do that till it cools off around here. In fact, the day after I left, the boy's dad came around wanting me to get arrested for stabbing his son. So it's probably wise that I had left. When I did, we went out and I traveled with them and I took care of the herd because you can't work the oxen all the time. You've got to give them a break. So we had teams that we would switch in and out, and when they weren't being worked, they were part of a herd, and that was my responsibility to keep them together, make sure they got the water, make sure they had the chance to feed. And as we got close to Fort Kearny, we were going through an area that was by a wide river, and it was a little swampy. And I got slowed down by that. I wasn't as big as the men were, and most of them were riding, I was on foot. And they got ahead of me about a mile or so. And I could see them making camp way up ahead there. And as I came in with the herd, I saw an engine. And that engine was hiding behind a tree. And he was drawing a bead on my friends and getting ready to shoot them. He didn't notice me. So here I was. I grabbed my rifle and I pulled down on him, and before he could shoot, bam!
Before it was all said and done, Buffalo Bill's Wild West and the Congress of the Rough Riders of the world traveled all over continental Europe and seen sights in places such as England, Germany, Austria, Hungary, and even France for the 100th anniversary of the storming of the Bastille. With over 600 performances and 5 million tickets sold, Bill brought his troupe back to America. The Wild West brought an exotic foreign world to the life of its European audiences, allowing a last glimpse into the fading American frontier. While back in America, Cody was instrumental in founding the town of Cody, Wyoming, in northwestern Wyoming. Today, the Old Trail Town Museum is at the center of the community and commemorates the traditions of Western life. Cody also founded the Irma Hotel, named after his daughter, the Wapiti Inn in Wahaska Teepee in 1905. Cody also established the T.E. Ranch, where he would often take sightseers on horseback camping trips and big game hunting, and in his spacious ranch house, he would entertain notable guests from Europe and America. William Frederick Buffalo Bill Cody died on January 10, 1917. He was baptized in the Catholic Church the day before his death by Father Christopher Walsh of the Cathedral Basilica of the Immaculate Conception. Bill Cody received a full Masonic funeral, and upon news of his death, tributes were made by King George V, Kaiser Wilhelm II, and President Woodrow Wilson. His funeral service was held at the Elks Lodge Hall in Denver. The governor of Wyoming, John B. Kendrick, a friend of Cody's, led the funeral procession to the cemetery atop Lookout Mountain in Golden, Colorado, just west of Denver, on the edge of the Rocky Mountains, overlooking the Great Plains. His burial site was selected by his sister, Mary Decker. Welcome back, guys. Like I said in the beginning, Buffalo Bill has always been a fascination of mine. When I was 12 years old, we got to go to Scouts Rest Ranch. Me, my sister, my mom and dad, and it was an amazing time. I still remember looking at that house, walking through it, seeing the grounds. And I couldn't help but to think how amazing that man's life must have been. Since I've had a chance to research him and study him a little bit, learn about his mannerisms, his showmanship, some of the things he's done, he fascinates me even more today than he did 42 years ago. He lived a great life. He entertained millions of people around the world. And frankly, there are celebrities and entertainers today, 100 years later, 110 years later, that wishes they had half the career that William Frederick Cody did. But that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this look back on the life of an adventurous man, a great man from our history. As always, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. God bless you. God love you. We do. I'm gonna walk. Y'all take care.